Vars is talking about Geo again. Everything wrong with Smolder. I look at I mean, I can look at League of Legends next time. I also play League of Legends, but this is a Genshin channel. You guys, if you guys mind me looking at like Smolder, I might take a look later. Okay, let's look at the Geo. Is Geo finally meta Xilonen gameplay analysis? This guy doesn't usually do this from what I remember. I think he didn't do this for like Sijuin, right? Is Geo finally back?
The Geo element has been without question the weakest and least relevant of the 7 for the entire span of
No, it's Cryo right now.
Genshin's timeline. While an effort has been made to carve out a niche for the Earth attribute, it kind of fell flat after a short while. Version 2 was the first and only real instance of Geo having any semblance of presence in the meta, with Ito's Mono Geo team being a respectable party at the time. But for over 2 years now, the element has failed to garner mainstream success. And
okay, if you're saying Geo's back because of Xilonen, I disagree. I think it's Xilonen that's a good unit, doesn't bring Geo back into the meta. Okay, if you're gonna say like addition of Navia and Chiori and Xilonen makes Geo better, then okay, I will hear your explanation. That one's a more plausible reason rather than to just only because Xilonen is back that Geo's good now.
Navia did make a name for herself as the new best Geo attacker in the game. Geo itself has been in a bad spot pretty much since the game came out, due in no small part due to its insularity. That all changes with the newest addition to the cast and the third 5-star character of Natlan, Xilonen, having a very colorful resume in that she's the most renowned weaponsmith in all of Natlan while simultaneously being a DJ who can outshred anyone in the skating park. Everyone was apprehensive to find out her element of choice. Luckily for fans of her and prospective players on the fence about bringing her home, she completely breaks the status quo in more ways than one. I might go so far as to call her the new strongest Geo character in the game. So it's with great pleasure and excitement that I bring to you my analysis and discussion of Xilonen, how she might be the inflection point that Geo finally needs to be on the same level as the other elements. The central issue plaguing Geo up until version 4 was that despite having a reaction based on dynamic interfacing with 4 other elements, the main gimmick of the element was birds of a feather flocking together, with units like Ito and most notably Goro having aspects to their gameplay expressly stating they need multiple Geo members on deck. Having more than 1 or even 2 characters in a party belonging to the same element is not necessarily a bad thing. Quite the opposite. The elemental resonance system encourages the use of at least one shared element between characters. There aren't that many top meta teams, if any, who run a rainbow party. Usually you'll find pairs of Hydro, Electro, Dendro, Pyro, etc. taking up half the squad. If that's the case, why is this so problematic for Geo? It's one thing for it to be beneficial to have 2 members of the same element working together. It's another for it to be obligatory, especially when said benefits aren't conducive.
I think when you put double Geo, there's no like damage bonus, right? Compared to like other like resonance. That's why it's like double Geo doesn't feel good.
To members not pertaining to that faction. For example, Pyro, Hydro, and Dendro Resonance buff up not just their respective units, but bonus attack, HP, and elemental mastery work for many characters. In contrast, despite offering the most substantial boost in power of any resonance,
I think it only gives shield, right?
Enduring Rock is practically exclusive.
Damage. Oh yeah!
Meant for Geo characters, and Geo characters only. Not just that, but with Crystallize being a non-DPS reaction with a purpose that ends up being redundant most of the time, Geo effectively has no reaction. As such, Mono Geo, aka brute forcing it, was the only method of recourse for the element for better or worse. Realizing this, Hoyo made an attempt to break away from their pre-established gimmick of Mono Geo through Navia, who, unlike Ito, not only could accommodate non-Geo units, but explicitly wanted them on her team to power up her elemental skill through Crystallize, in addition to her A4 outright stating that
this was when like Geo mixed with other elements. Okay, I forgot Navia could do this.
You needed non-Geo members on your team. Evidently, she became the best Geo attacker in the game by a fair margin. The prevailing sentiment towards her was that Navia, and I guess by extension Chiori, weren't strong because of Geo, rather they managed to be strong in spite of Geo, implying they would have been better if they were a different element. Remarkably, what I appreciate about Navia's kit in particular is that she found a way to take a defensive reaction Crystallize and turn it into an offensive one. That also happens to be the approach they're taking for Xilonen. Xilonen is... how can I put this in a way that doesn't come off too harsh?
She's fucking broken!
To preface my analysis of her, you'll be happy to note that just like Navia, Xilonen manages to pleasantly surprise us by being an incredibly strong unit in spite of her element, finding a creative way to take the limitations of Geo and use it to her advantage. Not counting Kachina, Xilonen is the first Geo support character to come out since Yunjin, meaning it's been over 2.5 years since our last Geo support character, and almost 4 years since our last 5-star Geo support, with the first and only one being Zhongli, who literally came out in version 1.2. Needless to say, Xilonen has quite a lot of work to do. Thank heavens though, because she gets it all done and then some. If I could TLDR her playstyle, think of her as a walking Geovertis inventor. You know,
Your profit, sir. This is what other brokers
But I
are
did
doing.
hear like she was gonna function the same as Kazuha with the like defense shred. But from what I saw from reading the talents, it's mostly like shredding the enemy's respective element to your party characters members element, right?
you know, that one artifact set that everyone spammed the crap out of before power creep caught up to it? Her elemental skill causes her to shred the elemental resistance of nearby enemies based on the elements of her party members. She can select up to 3 elements at a time, choosing from a pool of Geo of course, along with any of the 4 elements Geo can interface with: Pyro, Hydro, Cryo, and Electro. Unlike Virtus Inventor though, you don't actually have to trigger an elemental reaction to get this off. You just need to have them in your party. When fully activated for 15 seconds, all nearby targets have their resistance towards those elements reduced by 36% for 15 seconds, a tiny bit lower than Vivi's 40%, but she makes up for that by having a far easier activation condition. Just normal attack twice and boom! One more thing to make note of is that because the shred is on her sample and not target based, her debuff is better than Vivi in multi-wave battles, as in you don't have to worry about continuously reapplying it on new enemies that come in. It'll just be active the entire time. Bear in mind, if you're running a non-mono Geo DPS like Navia, Xilonen can also shred Geo while off-field. So technically she can still work for Geo, which is a nice touch. If the number of samples that change elements doesn't go above 1, she gains a boost to her normal and plunging attacks.
Man, she can still be like a main
But
DPS.
given she's more of a support, it's better to just play her in that role. In a similar fashion to most recent 5 stars it appears, the bulk of Xilonen's gameplay is housed in a skill, allowing her more flexibility in uptime and consistency than if she was based on
I love characters where you can use them as like a main DPS and a sub DPS. They should design more characters like this. That's why Alhaitam and Nilo was so fun, right?
elemental bursts, which tend to have long cooldowns and of course the need for energy. Speaking of uptime, her skill is a cooldown of 7 seconds despite a buff duration of 15. It is a cooldown less than half the duration. Even if it had a cooldown of 18 seconds, it would still be fantastic, but they gave her more uptime than you can ever ask for. That being said, her burst is equally as important to consider. Xilonen is the first Geo healing support in Genshin Impact. I say that because even though Noelle can also heal, she has to attack. It's been over 4 years, and we finally have a Geo healer. I mean, it's not like Geo was in dire need of one, given its Archon doesn't know what taking damage even feels like, but to repeat, Xilonen is the first 5-star Geo support in a long time, and having universal support like healing is always appreciated. So putting it together, Xilonen is basically Geo Kazuha who trades grouping for healing. You might be asking why I call her Kazuha, mostly because of the Cinder City artifact set. Cinder City is basically Kazuha's elemental damage boost passive on an artifact set, and with Crystallize and Swirl reacting with the same 4 elements, they share the same basic principle. Then Kazuha takes Virtus and Venerer, which Xilonen has in her base kit. They're literally the same if you think about it. The main difference is that Kazuha is for grouping while Xilonen is for healing. Now considering Kazuha has perennially been one of the best supports of all damn time, it should be no surprise that someone who can do pretty much the same thing he can with the side grade of healing over grouping is also expected to be equally as powerful, and she is. I'm not trying to say Zhongli is suddenly irrelevant. There will never be someone who outshines him when it comes to absolute defense. But if we're talking about overall usage, and especially offensive capability, Xilonen is the best thing since sliced bread for Geo, and it's not even close. She can shred up to 3 different elemental resistances by 36%, in tandem with providing 40%
36. Oh man, should I pull for her? Don't know, man.
bonus elemental damage for up to 5 different elements courtesy of Cinder City. She managed to turn Crystallized weakness
5 elements. It must be
of
one of
only
the
having one
constellations.
reaction that can interact with multiple elements into a strength, a big one at that. The challenge of playing Kazuha and by extension VV is that trying to pull off a double swirl can be inconsistent and time consuming. You'll still run into that issue with Crystallize, but at the very least, Xilonen's skill doesn't require any execution from the player. You simply need to have the other elements in your party. Best of all is that Cinder City has a max duration.
Yeah, oh yeah, using her with Furina would be... You can use her with Furina because she has healing. You don't have to use the swan, the duck on Furina.
seconds. Meanwhile, Xilonen's skill has the max duration of 15 seconds, sufficiently covering even parties with extended rotations. The sheer potential impact this woman will have on the meta is bigger than it looks. Kazuha has been a universal support for many teams by virtue of boosting and shredding 4 out of 7 elements. The only downside is that you have to bring a sustain unit. With Xilonen, you relinquish the ability to crowd control targets, but gain the privilege of consolidating healing with those critical buffs. The possible teams you can throw her in are endless. You can swap out Jean with Xilonen in Neuvillette teams and get even more DPS boosts, considering Jean herself doesn't contribute much damage outside of VV, which Xilonen already has. Or you can go Neuvillette, Kazuha, Xilonen, Furina and get all the perks of both supports. Navia gets even stronger with Xilonen because now you have those two alongside Bennett and Xiangling for ridiculous DPS. Of course, being a Natline character, she's an obvious prize pick for a Mulan.
I've been seeing a lot of Geo Pyro teams. I don't know if there's like a buff. Maybe there's a hidden buff that I don't know. Geo Pyro has been really coming out a lot of Geo Pyro teams. More so than Geo Hydro.
The player in Parent, Coaching, or Sino teams if you're going Aggravate. If you don't feel like going Poco Stick Utao, you can replace Zhongli with Xilonen in Double Hydro, or if you're using Farina for Utao's Double Hydro team, you can swap out Jin with Xilonen. You can also throw Xilonen in as the 4th slot for Linear Mono Pyro. Realistically, any team where you're remotely thinking about putting Kasaha in, at times where you prefer someone who can heal, you can choose Kasaha and Xilonen interchangeably depending on the situation, or like I said, you can use both, there's no rule saying you can't. Likewise, if the team uses Zhongli, if you want some more power in exchange for durability, you can swap him with Xilonen too. She has among the best party versatility in the game. I should mention that even though shields from Crystallize are miserably weak, they can still more or less tank at least one attack, kind of like how Baiju prioritizes quantity over quality for his own shields, adding yet another layer of defense for him. And if you're concerned about interruption, her C1 affords a small amount of interruption resistance, around the same strength as Sino's Burst. Combine that with the occasional shield from Crystallize, and you shouldn't have any problem with getting staggered. The only teams you can't really use Xilonen in are Dendro and Shao, given Anemo and Dendro don't work with Geo whatsoever. Even so, that still leaves you with like a dozen teams.
They should make, you can't use Anemo and Geo. They should make a reaction.
Teams you can use her in. Further accentuating her party flexibility is her second constellation. C2 is... I don't even know what to say. It's not a must-have, you can get more than enough out of her at base, but I don't blame anyone for being tempted by her C2, cause I'm tempted by it. Here's how it works. Xilonen's Geo sample will always be active no matter what, effectively giving you 4 samples. Furthermore, she grants an additional bonus to her party corresponding to the elemental types of the active samples. Since Geo is always in effect, all Geo characters deal 50% bonus damage, unconditional. 50% bonus damage. Ito officially has a new best friend. Remember how I said for exclusive supports to be strong, they have to be like Vars and consolidate every possible DPS boost you can think of into one character? Bam, Xilonen. Having a Pyro sample active gives 45% attack to all Pyro units, another solid chunk of DPS. Hydro sample gives 45% max HP to Hydro characters.
45% is a lot, man.
The 45% max HP is measurably bigger of a DPS boost to HP scalers than attack is to attack scalers. Cryo sample gives 60% crit damage. While 60% crit damage is massive, the only issue is that Ayaka and Ganyu already have tons of crit damage by virtue of not needing crit rate, so there might be diminishing returns, but that being said, 60% is still 60%. Finally, Electro Sample. Free 25 energy restored to the party upon creation of the sample, and then for the remaining duration, the cooldown of all Electro ultimates goes down by 6 seconds. Xilonen C2 alone is an entire support character in and of itself. Having even one of these buffs would be reason enough to want to get a C2, let alone 5, and you can activate up to 4 of those buffs at any given time. These numbers are just straight up insane. Her Elemental Shred combined with Cinder City combined with C2, she might actually just be the best support in the game, not for having the highest increase in DPS or for elemental application, but for the sheer amount of stuff she gives to the party. Prior to Hydro getting all the insane top tiers it did, Anima was thought of as the best element in the game purely for its coverage and versatility. Xilonen is that and then some. Even at C0 she's an incredible character and borderline must pull on the basis of the countless number of parties you can throw her into, but at C2 you get a buff tailor-made to the expected priorities of those characters. Novelette, Farina, Yelan, and Kokomi want as much HP as possible. Xiangling, Arlecchino, Lini, Gaming, Diluc, Klee, even Hutao to an extent very much appreciate extra attack. Cryo units love crit damage. The 50% bonus damage to Geo characters means that C2 Xilonen can work in mono Geo teams. At the time of writing this, I'm not certain if the cooldown reduction is persistent or if it's a one-time refund, but if it's the former...
I think not everyone's gonna pull for C2, right? I mean, this is crazy. Man, I don't know if I want to pull for her though.
Thing's first cooldown goes from 12 seconds to 6. This character's fucking horse, my dude. Do you think I'm done glazing her? No, not even close. We haven't even talked about her weapon yet. I guess Genshin Impact saw how stupid overpowered Honkai Star Rail makes their light cones and decided to follow their example. This weapon's kind of insane. After normal attacking twice, all party members gain 8% bonus elemental damage for every 1000 defense the equipping character has, up to a max of 25.6 for 15 seconds. Xilonen's weapon itself is Kasaha. Not as strong, mind you, but this is one of the better ones out there. 2 normal attacks, that's all it takes to suddenly give a full
I mean, the weapon looks cool, so I think the most cool looking one is the axe, right? And this one I would put like in top 3 designs
damage bonus of 25%. Being a defense scaler, she'll have no trouble reaching 3000, especially with the weapon itself giving defense. Would you believe me though if I told you that this actually used to be a lot higher in the beta? At one point it was 12% per 1000 defense up to a cap of 36. You know what, that's a nerf I can get behind. Let's tally up everything. Xilonen has 36% AoE Elemental Shred, continuous healing for the active character, permanently active buffs corresponding to Elemental type, party-wide 40% bonus Elemental damage with Cinder City, and to wrap it up with her weapon, another 25% Elemental damage for good measure. What in the world? This woman is the new undisputed best Geo character in the game by leaps and bounds. Better yet, she's top 5 support material. This is borderline Nahida and Farina level 17. There's legitimately no downside to this character. No problem with uptime, no problem with coverage, no problem with party slot efficiency, no problem with consistency. Xilonen is just... this woman's her. Is she a must pull? You know what? Yeah, she is. If Kaza is a must pull, then Xilonen is too. At C2R1, I'd go as far as to say she's top 3 supports in the game. It's a good thing too, Geo has gone too long without any concessions. Not implying that Navia and Shiori weren't welcome additions to the roster, but we were in dire need of a top tier representative. Animo has Kazuha and Shinyu, Pyro has Bennett, Shangling and Arlecchino, Dendro has Nahida, Alhaitham and Baishu, Electro has Fischl and Shogun, Hydro has like 50 top tiers. Cryo and Geo are the only elements without a top tier representative. Depending on what you value, maybe Chongli could fit that spot, but point being, Geo has been waiting literal years for a broken ass character. Not only did they get a damn good one, but Xilonen went even further. She's not just S tier, like I said, she might be one of the top 5 best characters in Genshin Impact right now. If it sounds like I'm over exaggerating, I'm not. Try her out for yourself. It doesn't even take a theory crafter to recognize how much this character offers. They really want you to pull for her with all the stuff they put in her kit. With that said though, I think we'll end things off here. Let me know your thoughts on Xilonen in the comments down below if you plan to pull for her or not. I'm going C2R1 minimum, but for the time being, if you enjoyed the video, it would be great if you gave it a like and subscribed. Don't forget to follow me on...
I don't know. Actually, I like Chasca more. Okay, maybe I'll wait. If she's that broken, I might pull. I don't know, man. We all are saving for Mavuika, right? Difficult situation. Okay, people are gonna say like for the Spiral Abyss is gonna be a big deal, but I think what's even more is the movement around the map. That's one of the reasons I also want to pull as well, because the skateboarding is pretty cool. Is this... man, it feels bad. Should I pull? Should I pull? I'm still on the fence. Okay, I already have Kazuha. He didn't say he's like better than Kazuha, right? But it's up there, right? I mean, you can always pull later, right? I'm okay. It's always a rerun. There's 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 always a rerun. I really want Chasca more. Again, I'm one of the few guys that actually want Chasca more than Xilonen. She's broken. Okay, I get it. But I'm at the point in my game, I'm free to play. I'm still free to play. But I'm at the point I can clear Spiral Abyss perfectly without any issues, and I can clear the Imaginarian Theater without any issues as well. I'm just playing for fun right now, and trying to get this YouTube channel to grow. You know what? This doesn't convince me. You know what? I am solid, rock solid in my conviction. I'm hard, mega hard. I don't think I will put on the second rerun. I can guarantee you the second Xilonen is gonna come in like another like 3 to 4 patches. They always rerun the same character in the 3 to 4 patches. That's why like, why did Chiori come so fast? Like, I think Chiori was like 3.7, right? I didn't expect Chiori to come back so soon.